and welcome back to Cooking with Mowino. Cheers. We are drinking a lovely Syrah from Washington State right now, and it is just delightful. However, we're going to be cooking with white wine. The chef is drinking red, and the sauce is coming out with white. So, what we're going to make today is my version of green risotto. So, I have 1 tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil in my very large fry pan, and heavy fry pan I should say, so we had to get the heat up really well here. We're adding 2 large chopped shallots and 2, let me turn the flame down a bit, 2 finely chopped celery stalks. And we're just going to get this going until they soften, and then we will add the rest of our ingredients, which involves wine. So we have our chicken broth over here simmering and warm, because you want to add warm broth to your risotto rice as it's cooking. This is a multi-layering process. So the first step here is to get some aromatics in the pan. And I like shallots, and I just decided to add celery because this is green risotto. And we are even using tonight Vinho Verde, which is a Portuguese wine that has, it's similar to a Sauvignon Blanc, but it has a little bit more minerality, and I say a little bit of effervescence. And in Portugal, they believe that there is a green hue to this grape and to this wine, so thus it's called Vinho Verde. And I have to tell you, it's lovely and refreshing. And there's a special drink in Portugal when it's really hot in the summertime that they mix it with some seltzer water or bubble water, and it's really, really quite nice. So here we have our shallots and our celery, which are looking pretty tender. We don't want to fry them, we want to saute them. So we are now going to add a 1.5 cups of arborio rice, which is risotto rice, to our pan. And we're going to give this a quick stir so that all of these beautiful aromatics mix in. But again, we are not browning and frying, we are sauteing. So now that I have all of the rice, the shallots, and the celery mixed in, I am literally flattening it out so that the entire surface of the pan has rice touching it, because we just want to get a toastiness on it, not a browning, just a toastiness. Okay. So we're going to keep this on the burner flat. When I started doing this, it was 624, so now it's 625, so I'm thinking it was about 30 seconds in. I really just want about a good minute so that it gets the toastiness of it. I'm just sort of watching it so it doesn't burn. Don't want it to burn. Get ready. I have a measuring cup of 1 cup of our Vinho Verde. There we go. It's starting to stick, so we don't want that. So we're going to add our white wine. Okay. Perfect. You can see it was a little toasty. You can smell it, but not burnt. So now we are going to let this rice absorb the wine. And once the liquid cooks out, then we are going to start putting in our broth, so that the rice can absorb it. We're going to put on a little at a time. We'll start off with a cup, and we're going to use a standard ladle, which is a half a cup. So we'll put in 2 ladles worth of broth, see how that goes, and then from that point on, we should only, depending on how fast it's cooking, use a half a cup of broth at a time. And then we have our lovely green vegetables that we'll be adding in after. So the key to risotto, got to keep stirring. So we're going to stir and ladle And okay, so I have already put in 2 ladles worth of broth, but I just wanted you to see the process. So once I start to see the pan's bottom, that's when I'm adding more broth. And this is a very wide pan, so I'm going to break my rule and actually put in a full cup at the same time. And then we're going to keep on stirring. So here we have our beautiful risotto. A lot of steam coming into the camera, apologize. That is cooking up our broth, which we have now ladled in almost 4 times. So when this broth cooks out, and I will then start adding our green vegetables with more broth so that the vegetables get to cook. And again, we are making green risotto, so stay tuned. All right, so we're getting ready to add another batch of broth to our risotto pan. But before we do that, I want to start adding my vegetables. Start making my risotto green, as we say. So, one of the first things I'm going to add is 2 cups of chopped fresh spinach. Now we really want this, so it's basically wilting into the rice. And one of the other stars of our green risotto is I have a cup of chopped mini broccoli florets. Now this is what I really am worried about getting done. I basically could have blanched them, but I happen to like my vegetables to have a little al dente to them. So we just put in small, and we're just gonna let them cook away into the rice. I'm gonna put an extra one in since I have so many vegetables. I actually put in a lot of broccoli because I really wanted this to be a vegetable risotto. You know, usually I put in chopped asparagus, green peas, but I wanted the heartiness of a green vegetable. Sometimes this is probably not what people traditionally would do to make the risotto, but like I said, I did not blanch the broccoli, so I'm adding it a little earlier than when it should have been, so that we can get a head start on the process here. So now we're just going to keep adding our broth, and this is going to get pretty good. We have been ladling in our broth non-stop now for almost a good 20 minutes. Typically a risotto takes about 30 minutes. So I just keep moving my pot over and ladling it in. And I made, this is a big pot, like I said, and this is about, I think we said a cup and a half of rice. So I started out with 6 cups of broth, and we started also with the 1 cup of white wine. So we are still letting our rice absorb the liquids, and it's doing pretty well. I have it on medium because this is such a big pan, and because it is a very thick and heavy pan. So I have to make sure that the heat stays constant. So this is looking really nice. And when you start to see, when you push back against the pan, you see it start to slowly come to the center of where you have split it, like a slow moving lava that hopefully we've only seen on TV. Then you know you're starting to finish your absorbing process. Okay, I'm going to add more broth because I have it. And we're just going to go quickly now instead of ladling. Now, I haven't added any salt yet because we're going to add our Parmesan cheese at the end, which is a salt content cheese. So I have been light on the salt. I have added some white pepper to this process. I think, let's see. All right, our rice is tender, but it could be more. And I can tell you right now it needs some salt, but I'm still going to hold off because I don't want to over salt it. Now, I have a little bit of broth left, and I think I'm going to go ahead and use it. Still have some more. This is just really a judgment call. You want to make sure your rice is nice and tender, and it is very close to it. And like I said, I like my vegetables al dente, so we did not blanch the broccoli, and it's getting tender as well. Now the next green vegetable we have is frozen peas, but I'm going to leave that to the very end because when I finally finish this process, I'm going to put a lid on it, let it sit for a few seconds, and that will just steam open the frozen peas that I've had sitting out through this whole process. So they're not completely frozen. Time for the chef to have a sip. And I hope you do too. Really good Syrah. The Syrah is going to be really lovely when we sit down to eat this tonight. It's a great vegetarian dish. I use chicken broth, but you could use vegetable broth, so it's authentic. Authentically vegetarian. I just use chicken broth because that's what I had in the house. This is really creamy. That's the beauty of risotto. You want it to be creamy. That's what makes it different than regular rice, is the creamy factor. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and add this because I figured, why not? Let's make it as creamy and moist as possible. We still have some in there. A process that a lot of people don't like to do when they have their guests already in the house. It's one of those things you can't make really in advance and keep it good. There are some methods you can put it in the stove and the oven. I haven't done that. But anyway, this is also kind of a fun thing when your friends are over. Bring them into the kitchen with you. Have them some wine. Put them to work. But today we are just making this for the humble little household of Mowino headquarters. Oh, really creamy. So I'm going to go ahead and add the last of this broth. And let this all cook into the final moments. Now, one of the great things about risotto, similar to gravy, one of the last things you want to add to the liquid process is a pat of butter. I don't know what it does, but it does something. It helps. It makes it creamy. It makes it yummy. And then once this melts, I'm going to add our Parmesan cheese. The butter has melted, and we are going to incorporate the cheese. That is about a half a cup. I'm going to start with that. Now we're really talking yummy. So let's make this as rich as possible and add in more Parmesan cheese, which was a half a cup. So now we have a full cup. Wow, wow. And I'm going to put in a few dashes of salt. That's Himalayan pink salt, rock salt. I'm going to turn my flame down. And I'm going to add my peas. Oh, this is heaven on a plate. turn it off. Let it sit for just a minute. Now, normally, if I wasn't making this vegetarian, this would be a perfect time to put some shrimp on top and let the shrimp steam in the pan, but we are doing strictly vegetarian tonight. Cheers. This is green risotto. It's gonna be good.